Yes, of course. My name is Susana Ruiz. I am co-founder of the game design studio Take Action Games, which is a studio where we explore the intersections of game design, art, social justice, and nonfiction. I am also assistant professor of film and digital media at the University of California, Santa Cruz. I first met Tracy as a student at the University of Southern California. In fact, I was part of the inaugural cohort of the Interactive Media and Games division. The division was new, of course, at the time, and you can imagine that it resembled what it is today only slightly. The evolution has been amazing, truly amazing. An evolution, I think, led by really vanguard educators, students, and artists, and with Tracy at the forefront. So my initial thoughts about Tracy at the time was that she stood out. She clearly stood out. She was unique, not just from my own perspective, but from the perspective of some of my close colleagues and classmates at the time. See, the field, right? The field of games and interactive media at the time, and still is, although for sure improving, isn't exactly and wasn't exactly egalitarian in terms of factors such as gender, sexuality, race, age, and more. This is something that I think is complex and rooted in several factors, and it is a field that I think is struggling and learning about issues like inclusivity and equity and diversity. And as a newbie at the time, as a student and a newbie, I may not have necessarily known how to identify and articulate these things, but they definitely still impacted me personally and my education and that of a number of my classmates. So Tracy was this beacon. She really, truly was a beacon for, among other things, being who you are, right? Exactly who you are, with courage, with grace, and with this unfathomable work ethic. We didn't see at the time, that many faculty members that were women and teaching interactive media and games. Let alone one that had a vision for where things should go, both within academia and the industry, right? So I remember that at the time, I remember her being completely just present for her and my classmates if we needed her, and my fellow woman classmates and I understood this, and we really appreciated it, and it really did help us. I can speak for some of them and myself for sure that it helped us make us a little less anxious and a little more bold, and so, she has worked so hard towards gender equity in this space, and because of it, richly deserves, our gratitude. She taught my colleagues and I, and I'm sure many since then, that we certainly deserve a place at the table. And we may even deserve to be, we may even belong at the head of the table. I think that one of the most important lessons that I've learned from Tracy is twofold. The first part is that being a dreamer is an asset. It may sound a little hokey, but it isn't. Being a dreamer is a very good thing. It seems to me that Tracy really likes dreamers. She lifts them up, but then the second part too, she backs them up. So she, I think, makes sure that that they know that their voice matters, and she also makes sure that they get the skills, the competencies, and the networks necessary to support those dreams. I think that she has been at the forefront of the kinds of struggles and breakthroughs that have ensured that the study and the production of games have their proper place in academia. that they are taken seriously as cultural objects and processes that have, historically always been important, and perhaps more so in the future. So, this may not sound so radical now at this point in 2015, but to me, it sure feels like it's been a radical journey for a couple of decades. Games, like all media and like all technologies, are not created in a cultural vacuum. They exhibit aesthetic and ideological properties. And I think that Tracy has championed the kind of games education that takes this very seriously. Which brings me to the second part of the twofold lesson, right? That and it has to do with ethics and work ethics. That you are likely going to have to work really hard to get those dreams of yours out there, especially if those dreams entail not accepting that something is impossible, Your technical director tells you something is not doable, right? So you're gonna have to work really, really, really hard, but also ethics in a broader sense, right? The ethics that shape how you treat yourself, how you treat your material, how you persevere over the long run, how you work with others, how you accept and step into the role of leader and visionary. I think that these are lessons that directly and indirectly Tracy teaches, I think, her students, daily. Okay. So to answer the question of how Tracy has influenced the way I make games, I'll have to refer to a particular moment that is, till this day, really, really important to me in my work. And of course, I'm working from memory here, so these may not have been, Tracy's exact words. But one day, years ago, in class, she proclaimed that the folks who don't self-identify as hardcore gamers, those that may even have played very little games throughout their lives, and that don't necessarily have fixed notions of what games are and could be and shouldn't be, these folks will have a big impact on games. And from my opinion, I think this has come to bear completely. But back then anyway, I immediately heard this and accepted it as prophecy, It made sense to me. It resonated personally. The field needed and still needs so much diversity of expression. And just like that, just like magic, those moments when someone's able to, switch things magically. Just like that, from one moment to the next, the fact that I didn't self-identify as a hardcore, lifelong gamer was an asset and not this terrible and intractable shortcoming. I had a place at the table. I had ideas, and so did my classmates and colleagues. So because of this moment years ago in Tracy's class, I take my ideas very seriously. I respect them. And by extension, of course, I take the ideas of others very seriously. And I would say that this, in some way, and this also taught me the lesson that I think that you have to try your best at the given moment, but that you will make mistakes. I think that she teaches great lessons about making mistakes and accepting failure. And that the short-term and the long-term picture matter, and that you get better at it step by step. Okay, so the question is, can I recollect a silly moment with Tracy? So I spoke about a memorable moment. It may not be very silly, but it was very impactful, and is very impactful to me. But in terms of silliness, I think actually that most moments with Tracy have the potential for silliness. There's this feeling, I feel always like there's this interwoven layer of silliness and joy that is teeming about her, right? So, like I mentioned before, there's no question that her work ethic is just incredibly, unfathomably serious. but it is also coupled with this potential for silliness all the time. And she, you know, she's a gamer, she's a game maker, right? Her expertise, I would, you know, go out on a limb and assume and presume that what she thinks about most of the time and breathes and dreams about is the what and the how living creatures play, right? And so when you think about it, play is one of those, is one of the few things in life that we don't have to do. We voluntarily and joyously do. And there's that interesting kind of dynamic, right? Tracy takes the understanding of that really, really seriously. So Tracy takes silliness very, very, very seriously for all the things I've mentioned. And, you know, she has a vision for the industry. She has a vision for games education. She has a vision for how to make it a space that is more inclusive and diverse and egalitarian. She, you know, she teaches dreamers how to get their stuff done. She, you know, I think she takes education and educating so seriously, and she teaches, again, directly and indirectly, so much about work ethics and collaboration ethics. So I think in a way I answered that question. I mean, she, you know, she's critical. She's been at the struggle of she's been at the forefront of so much innovation in the last couple of years. And again, I think that we may lose sight a little bit of some of those accomplishments and some of those struggles, because that's just the way life is. Once we kind of get to a milestone, you know, we get a little bit forgetful. But if it weren't for Tracy, you know, things would be entirely different and probably not for the better. Tracy, I know that it must not have been easy to teach me silliness, but I learned about it from you more than from anyone else in my career. And for this and for so many other things, thank you. Thank you, Tracy.